Hello and welcome back to a very special episode of Tails of Equestria. I am Mashashi and I've been your GM and producer for this series. This was our first major TTRPG project as Treat Your Geek, and we would like to thank all of you for joining us on this journey through Equestria. The response has been phenomenal and we can't wait to do more for you. But first, a word from our sponsor. Embark on a journey of galactic proportions and take your next tabletop adventure to the stars with WildSpace, the next TTRPG adventure from Lost Haven Art. Inspired by the popular video game series Star Fox, you and your friends play as anthropomorphic creatures in a newly explored star system. Build your character, ready your arsenal, and equip your starfighter as you prepare to explore the galaxy in search of adventure. This 100-page manual will guide you through your adventure with character archetypes, ship builds, worlds and wildlife, and a unique twist on the D6 rules for fast-paced and exciting combat. WildSpace is available now in paperback and PDF format from losthavenart.com, or you can follow the link in the description below. So blast off today with WildSpace, and a big thank you to Lost Haven Art for supporting our content. I've always been a huge fan of My Little Pony, and I bought the rulebook for Tails of Equestria back in 2017. Desperate to play, I tried to put a game together with friends who had zero TTRPG experience, and honestly, it was a bit of a disaster. Since then, I've been lucky enough to be a part of a number of actual plays, and I've learnt a lot of different systems, but all the while, it just made me want to play Ponies more, and I was determined to bring it to the TYG community.
I was a little intimidated when I heard we were playing Ponies, because I knew it was a franchise that Mash was passionate about, but I knew very little. So I was afraid I wouldn't be able to roleplay to a standard that would do it justice.
I was intrigued. I knew about MLP and the current run of content from my friends who were into it, but didn't know much myself. I thought it might be something fun to try my hand at and make an entertaining character for the viewers and myself.
When I saw that the TYG had pony content, and that the pony content was also a tabletop role-playing game, I squealed in delight. I've never played a pony TTRPG before, so watching the team filled me with just so much joy. It also made me want to jump through the screen and join in though, not gonna lie.
I don't have tons of experience with knowing My Little Pony and stuff, so when I was asked to if I wanted to like pop in and join, I was like, sure, why not? It's like it seems like something fun to do, and it's a new way for me to like also experience D&D in a different way with, you know, ponies and like very much abilities that are so different from what you're used to.
There's always a risk with actual plays that they can be a bit paint by numbers, but that's never the case with TYG projects, where there's always the added level of chaos. But this was something else.
Treat Your Geek has primarily used PNG tubers and VTuber assets instead of cameras for like most of our content. So like the typical actual play formula with webcams just wasn't gonna work for us. The Tails of Equestria system is also pretty like rules light, so there wasn't a huge need for us to use battle maps and other things that other actual plays use, which gave me the opportunity to be a bit more creative with our presentation.
When Mash pitched the concept of a playable cartoon, I was 100% for it. Anything that scratches the childhood nostalgia itch is a win for me. And with this cast, glorious.
I was amazed, honestly, at how Mash planned it all out and the effects she used. Most of what you saw in the final episode was what we saw when we were playing. Mash really started pushing the limits of OBS, and I think it helped us as players get a bit more into the experience.
I did away with battle maps and cameras and replaced them with a stage that could act as our play screen. My players were created as PNG tubers, but we used reactive FugiTech to create the bounce and lip sync. This led to a scene that felt more like a playable cartoon, and I worked so hard to encapsulate the essence of the series.
Mash went above and beyond with the presentation. What you saw on screen was exactly how we played it, minus a few effects of course. It really helped sell the immersion and let us concentrate on playing the adventure.
I have my own set of D&D pony figures, which I originally purchased for my tiny human, but reclaimed as my own because they were just so beautiful. I just want to play a little druid pony and live out my woodland fantasy life, okay? Is that too much to ask?
I decided to follow the story from the storytelling guide because this was my first time playing as a GM. I was a little intimidated by the prospect at first, but Riverhorse Games have done an excellent job laying out the various story beats with different scenarios for the GM to draw inspiration from. Like, there was a different option for every role, and I always had something to fall back on if I got stuck, which I really appreciated.
I think one of my fondest moments is the string of bad luck I had in episode 3. The culmination of all of those bad rolls leading to Revner and Winegum having to save me was hilarious to me, and I kept cracking up laughing while recording.
Being aimed at children, the puzzles weren't too taxing for my players, but they still forced them to think out of the box as they learnt the system. It didn't help that my players were not very well versed in the elements of harmony, but that led to some funny outcomes.
If I had to choose a favourite part, I think it would be the fight with Chimera. We just came together and treated it like a puzzle and used all our skills to defeat it instead of throwing punches.
My goal with this series was to make it as authentic as possible, but that still left me with a lot of assets to make to fill my scenes. I used a lot of pony bases and character creation tools for inspiration, but I still had to redraw pretty much everything. Thankfully, there were plenty of references in the book and from the series, so it was just a matter of recreating them in Clip Studio.
I adored all the pets. Mash had been teasing them for a while on Bants, but I didn't realise what they were from until I saw them in the story, and it all clicked. A special mention goes to the soaking wet opal. I thought that was hilarious.
I thought the Field of Flowers, where we found Owlicious, was gorgeous. Mash did an absolutely amazing job with that. The pets were all so great, and I do love my boy Prit. He looks so cute! So cute!
Obviously, I made my pony an Aliacorn, because why not? I am the GM after all. I gave her the cutie mark in the shape of a book because my special skill is storytelling, which I thought was very fitting for a GM, and also an author like me.
In designing Winegum, once I had the colours down, I knew what I was going to call. Winegum for the candy, Winegum because I knew I'd be doing a lot of whining, and it was also short for Winnie. The cutie mark I chose, the toolkit, was because I'm a very handy person in nature, and I'm always like, play what you know, and see if you can adapt it into the story.
TYG records predominantly in OBS, and this became the centre of the Tails of Equestria production. Most animations and lip syncs were recorded live in OBS, which meant it needed a lot of setup. So let's break it all down. There were several programs used whilst recording. OBS, Discord, Reactive FugiTech, VedeotubeMini, Roll20, and StreamerBot. I then used several plugins to create the animations in OBS, these being user-defined shaders and the Move plugin. I also used an Elgato Stream Deck to trigger all of my commands, because being able to just do that at the touch of the button was so helpful, and I didn't want to have to hotkey every single thing that I had set up because there were so many of them. Setting these up for every scene and character beforehand took some time, but it allowed me to bring in and remove assets as and when I needed them during the session. I also had a bunch of extra assets set up on the off chance that my players went too far off course. This might seem like a lot, but it's mostly just copying and pasting the different filters and Stream Deck commands and linking them to your assets. You can also find tutorials for all of these tools on our website. With most of the heavy lifting done in pre-production, recording sessions were a lot of fun, and I only had to worry about what chaos my players were going to cause.
Recording was a lot of fun. We were all new to the world of tabletop RPGs, and MASH really helped ease us into the whole experience. I think we had a great group as well for us to be able to riff with each other, collaborating and hindering in just the right amounts.
Recording was painless mostly, and aside from a few technical teething issues, I was impressed how flawlessly MASH was able to adapt to our shenanigans.
I was a little disappointed my scrolling backgrounds didn't work as well as I'd expected them to, but I was still happy with the overall outcome. I'll admit, the post-production is where I might have gone a little overboard. Creating a PNG tuber animated comic for the intro might have been a little over the top, and I might have done more than was necessary for the opening and closing credits. But you can't tell me it wasn't cool.
The opening and closing credits were very cool. I think it also helps give it more of a premium feel, like a proper show, than what many others on YouTube have to set us apart. Plus, it gave us the opportunity to bring more of the TYG community into the show, at the expense of Mash's hands, of course.
So my first experience with Ponies, it was actually for the session 1 for Tails of Equestria. And Mash gave me Twilight Sparkle to voice for that little part. It was a challenge, but at the same time it was fun. But it took a couple of recordings because I kept messing up the lines. But it was a lot of fun, and eventually I got it at the end. So it was it was a learning curve, but definitely worth it.
Because Mash had front-loaded a lot of the work, it gave us a lot more freedom after the fact, which is where I believe the idea for the little animation/comic came from. We had a lot of fun casting for this because we were able to include more of the community than we originally intended for.
I think having so much set up in advance really cut out a lot of the editing palaver and allowed Mash to hone her focus on making things a lot better, such as the Prit magic effect and the health figures.
I didn't have everything set up beforehand that I wanted to. Things like Prit's magic and some of the battle effects were a lot harder to predict, and so it made more sense to do them in post.
From seeing an early cut of the first episode to watching the finished result on YouTube was such fun. Now, I'm even more excited for what the next project might be that takes this successful format and builds on it further.
Working with PNG tubers cuts out a lot of the faff you get with cameras, and it made editing really easy, and that gave me the time to focus on things like the credits and the transition screen and all the little additional animations and sound effects.
Filming the Tails of Equestria series was a lot of fun, and we all learned something new, and hopefully we'll be able to bring it forward into a more visually appealing TTRPG series in the future.
And so we made it through the first story of Tails of Equestria. I do have the second adventure, The Curse of the Statuettes, so let us know in the comments if you would like to see us continue with this adventure. I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has supported Treat Your Geek as we continue to grow and improve our content. We have so many cool things on the way, including books, merch, and maybe even some video games. But until then, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you all later, taters. Love you, bye!